So you get to kind of learn before you buy. And I think that's one of the great benefits of, franchising is talking to people that are doing that thing that you're thinking about doing. And you look in the mirror and go, am I cut out for this?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Workergenix Mastermind podcast. Today, we have special guest Liz Leonard, who is a franchise business expert and is going to share some really incredible tips for entrepreneurs that might be looking to start a new adventure. Liz is an esteemed franchise advisor and owner of multiple businesses and a best-selling author of the book, Your Franchise Fast Pass, Your Guide to Finding Your Ideal Business. Liz, welcome to the podcast today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Harley.
My pleasure. Liz, can you maybe share a little bit more of a background on your business history and how you came to franchises?
Sure, absolutely. Corporate career with senior healthcare. I think everybody probably listening has had a corporate career and then either shifted or transitioned out of it. So mine was senior healthcare, a couple decades of that. And then I did transition out, left my healthcare job, and we did our first startup, which was a $1.2 million childcare center with my background in education. And we launched in 2007 when the recession hit. So I don't know what all of you were doing in 2007, but that's what I was doing. And the business actually thrived. We had a wait list 2.5 years long. It was just a really exciting time to be in entrepreneurship, but it was also very scary, but it went well. We actually had a buyer approach us almost 4 years later to buy our business. And we said, oh my gosh, startup sell. So we decided to sell our business, which was a really big decision. It was almost like our baby, even though we had 2 babies at the time. They were 4 and 7. And after that, we ended up investing in a self-storage business with 134 units. And that was great. And we recently sold that. I think it's been 2 years now. And we also own a franchise business that we've had for 10 years. And I am a franchise advisor. That's my current capacity. And I help people across the country explore investments through franchising to see if it's a good fit for them, based on a whole lot of criteria that we'll talk more about. But that's my background.
Love it. Now, we talked kind of before we started the recording that one of the really interesting things about franchising is you're able to work with people to help match them with businesses that align well to like their skills and passions and finances. What does that conversation typically look like when someone comes to you, and what are they typically looking for, and how do you help?
Yeah, the first call that I have with people is an intro call. It takes maybe 20 minutes to learn a little bit about why they're interested, what they're currently doing in their life right now. Would franchising fit into their life and in a lot of different ways? And so many people are being aged out of their job. People are looking for investments. People are just looking to build their own wealth, looking to have safety, control, freedom. Those are kind of all the words that I hear, which are very important to all of us. And then we kind of give them a skills assessment from there. So we want to understand and leverage the skills that they bring to the table, not just the strengths, but also the weaknesses. And if I'm working with a couple or a family, I will have them take the skills assessment too. So then it's a lot of fun. We get to actually measure and evaluate the differences between the whole family or the couple, and identify, okay, what franchise model is best suited for them. So it gives me data too. I mean, when I'm first meeting people and I have a 20-minute call, I get very high level information. I will get the skills assessment. They do fill out a business profile, but then we lengthen the process by doing a 60-minute Zoom consultation. And this is all free, by the way. So we really want to get to know people and take a deeper dive into what is their vision for the business. And I try to share with people, even for myself, all of the businesses that we have started and sold and still own, they have taken us places, right? They're destinations. And so we want to find out what they're looking for in the business, what they want to accomplish with it, and does it really make sense to do this at the point in life where they are today? Timing and money are 2 big factors. So, so there's a really detailed process that we take people through, and I won't get into all of it today, but I did publish a book last year. I'm happy to share a free copy with anybody. And it does give people the step-by-step process, which is your franchise fast pass.
Awesome. Now, what are some of the advantages of getting into a franchise versus someone who's, kind of frustrated with their day job and they want to just go out and be their own boss and start their own business? What kind of words of wisdom would you share when speaking to someone in that situation? Be like, maybe franchising should be something you consider.
I'm working with a lot of people that are unhappy in their jobs. A lot of acquisitions are going on right now in the world, which is amazing. It's the end of the year, which is no surprise. But when they wake up the next day and they don't have the job that they had, or they might have been asked to relocate, it is really a reality check that, okay, should I be working for this company? Do they care about me and my family? Should I take the reins? Should I take control? And we talk through all those scenarios. We talk about spousal support versus spousal sabotage too. They need to have their spouse involved in every step of the way. And then is this the right time? And are they financially capable of buying a business right now? So there's a lot of factors to answer that question, and it's different for everyone. Maybe they have a retirement account that they could actually access to buy a business. One of the best kept secrets in franchising is that there's a program called Rollover for Business Startups. It's called ROBS for short. And they can actually use their retirement account as long as they're not employed with that company. And it's tax free, and they can essentially give themselves a loan. So
Oh, wow.
again, looking at all the factors and how would we get the working capital for the business? What would your role be in the business? And are we looking for an owner operator model, or are we looking for a semi absentee model, which means you're going to be paying a general manager? And we all know paying somebody while you're working for somebody else is definitely a difficult decision. But if you took a buyout or you're on a severance package, there's a lot of pieces there that we can put it together to say, okay, let's make this plan. Let's have either plan A, B, and C. Either you go in as an owner operator, maybe it's a semi absentee, maybe you do this in 6 to 9 months. So the timing factor, again, is something that we really have to talk about. But if there's pain in their life, they may have the skill set, they may have the mentality, they may have the motivation to run their own business. And that's really what we're trying to evaluate and find out. Is do you have what it takes to own and operate your own business? Because everybody listening and might be in real estate, they may own multi-unit properties, but it takes a lot of work to operate a business.
So, when someone is considering doing the franchise or trying to have other options besides that W-2 job that they're finding out maybe is not as secure as they thought, or they're not enjoying it, does not value them, it sounds like there's some opportunities with franchising to help mitigate the risk of, moving out of the W-2 role. What are some things you share with people that are like, hey, here's the advantage of doing this model versus trying to start from scratch and being the one who does everything?
Yeah. And I'll just share a quick little snippet of my personal story. When we did our $1.2 million startup in childcare, we had 140 children. We renovated the entire building. We bought the real estate. We had 22 staff. One of the things that we did right, looking back, not knowing there was a recession coming at us, is we hired a consultant to help us with the foundation of this business. And they were actually in California and I'm in Maine. But she had actually had 14 schools up and running, had already done the blueprint, had the playbook, everything was done. She could do this in her sleep. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I don't even really know where to start, right? We did our business plan, but then you have to execute. So I flew out there, I met her, and I paid her $65,000. And she agreed to be basically my coach and mentor for 1 year. And she let me acquire everything that she had, vendor discounts, all the technology platforms. She had somebody do my website. The list goes on. So the playbook was mine because I paid for it. Very similar to franchising. So if I had not had that, it would have been a little bit more of an uphill battle and opening in a recession. But I had somebody to talk to. Like, I was on my own island. And I think that when you're on your own island, you have to make those decisions, and you look in the mirror, you might talk to your spouse, but you don't have anybody guiding you. And, if you look at franchising, you are in a family of people just like you across the country that have already done this, right? The track record's there, the history is there, the systems have been created, they're always being improved. They have a technology platform, but you can call somebody and ask a question, which is great, versus, the island or being in a family of franchisees. It's a choice. Obviously, you pay a royalty to be able to use all their platforms. And I think there are a lot of people that don't agree with paying a royalty, but I think it also depends on the margins of the company and figuring out what you can make, what your average ticket price is per customer, per day, per week, per month. And so there's just a lot of important points to franchising. The value is there. It's not for everybody. There are those people that love the challenge to go build their own. I'm going to do it myself. And I meet a lot of those people, and they're not a fit for franchising, and we just part ways. It's fine. So
Yeah.
our DNA will lead us one way or another.
Absolutely. And I think an important thing for people to consider that you probably talk to them about is if they haven't been an entrepreneur before, it might kind of have rosy-eyed filter of what it means to be an entrepreneur and how much money is really there and the rate of success for startups that don't have the support that a franchise might have. Now, when people are considering franchising, I mean, a lot of times, of course, people come to think of like McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, food service, but there's a lot more to franchising than just the food service industry. What are some other kind of common industries that you find your clients going into that have been successful?
That's a great question. And you're right. Everybody thinks of food, and McDonald's obviously is the iconic one in our country. But there's another category called home service brands that people really forget about. And you probably see them on the highway every day. They're all mobile. It's like the one Paul, my husband, and I own. Ours is called Kitchen Tune Up. We do refacing, redooring, new kitchens, but we're mobile. We do not have to have a brick and mortar location. And that was one of the attractions for us investing in that model, is that we've already done there and paid the big lease payment, whether it's 10 grand a month or 15 grand a month. And, you don't have to do that. There's another way to build wealth through franchising, and home service brands is basically an essential service that can be applied to any building, commercial, residential. If you're sitting in your office right now or your home office, if there's a repair that needs to be done on any level, floor to ceiling, inside and out, there's a franchise for everything. So whether it's the blinds in the window, the carpet, whether it's pest control, we have coaching and training, we have mental health, we have just so many options in the home service brand category. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those brands. And that's where I'm finding people are really leaning towards, because it's a lower investment. It's lower overhead, and the margins are going to be stronger because you're not paying that big lease payment per month. Property management, another perfect example. I know we have a lot of real estate people in this audience. Anyway, it's an exciting time. And if you think about COVID, what everybody do, everybody was either trying to travel if they couldn't, buying real estate, buying a second or third home because their interest rates were low. And now they were able to apply, a service brand to the real estate. And so they go hand in hand, really.
Yeah. What typical time or financial commitment might people be facing to get started with a franchise? Is there any sort of general guideline, or does it really depend on the specific franchise they manage with?
Well, I will tell you that I call the investigation process, which is working with someone like me and getting through, A to Z and understanding it, getting the knowledge level and being informed, takes 6 to 8 weeks. So that's how long it takes us to uncover everything, right? Goal setting, vision setting, mission setting, and then trying to figure out everything we talked about, right? Skills, bandwidth, and investment level and market. So that will take us 6 weeks to really get that all going. So if you think about that, that's almost 3 months really by the time you've evaluated your brands. And we always have people talk with more than one company. So you're comparing and contrasting investments, which is actually kind of fun, learning about the founder story and the culture and their technology platform. So, that's kind of the initial phase of franchise investigation and getting to the bottom of what I'm looking for. Then you evaluate the brands, and then you make a decision within that time frame. And in that time frame, we're also introducing people to funding partners, and that is crucial. So we send people out to get pre-qualified. It is a phone call. It is not a credit check. It is not anything else, but they will tell you if they think that they can get you an SBA loan. And then, of course, we have the retirement startup program. And then from there, you sign your agreement, you pay your franchise fee, and then you set up your training. Now, training could be 4 weeks long. Training could be in-person training. It could be post-training. There could be pre-training. They all have a different platform, which is something else that you need to delve into in your due diligence to say, okay, I need to plan on this. Whether you have children, if it's summertime, you're going to be in training, and your spouse will probably be required to go too. They want to make sure that anybody that's going to be touching that business is fully trained. And then you're going to pick a start date, soft launch. And this is when I'm going to start the marketing, get the website up and running. You'll have a business coach working with you. So the service brands could be anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get them up and running. We have to find clients, right, to build a business.
Yes. And honestly, if someone's trying to bootstrap a business without all that support, oftentimes 2 to 3 years before there's any profitability. So that investment up front could make their business a lot or more profitable on a much faster timeline because they have those systems, they have that training in place, I imagine.
Yeah, some people look for a quick start. I always caution them on that. I would be talking with somebody within the franchise system that maybe just opened a year ago, find out how their training went. When did you start your business? Would you do anything differently? So you get to kind of learn before you buy. And I think that's one of the great benefits of, franchising is talking to people that are doing that thing that you're thinking about doing. And you look in the mirror and go, am I cut out for this?
Yeah. Well, it sounds really helpful. What oftentimes are you seeing as the kind of financial requirements? Is this for anyone, or if someone is, if someone's considering this, do you have general kind of guidelines? Hey, if you don't have $50K to invest, probably need to stick with your day job for a while?
It's interesting question to pose on. I'm not a bank, but we do send everybody, as I've mentioned, to get a pre-qualified call. It gives them confidence. I mean, that's really the purpose. We find out we don't want to waste each other's time, and maybe they need to go put more of their bonuses in their savings account. Maybe they need to pay down their credit card. So they will actually advise them on those high level things. But net worth is something that we will require them to fill out on their business profile, and the companies have a threshold. Some have a $350,000 net worth if it's a home service brand. If it's something that's going to be a brick and mortar, it might be a $500,000 net worth and up. It really depends on the investment level, but they want to make sure that we're leaving their job. One of the things that we talk through is, do you have a cushion? Can you pay all of your monthly bills, household bills, while you're building this business? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And is your spouse on board? So if they're in a dual income household, that's a bonus, right? You've got money still flowing to start a business. I have a couple candidates right now where they are in a single income household and they are transitioning out of their jobs. So more important to have the conversation. The working capital loan is for the business, but then what are we going to do about the household bills? And we want to make sure that they have a savings account. And so, obviously these are very personal decisions, but we just talk through different hypothetical situations, but ultimately it's their decision on how they fund the business. And if they're able to do that rollover for business startups, they can access some of their retirement money, right? Interest free, and give themselves a loan. And maybe that would help them pay the monthly household bills. Again, all personal decisions. I don't give guidance. I give facts and information and let people make their own decisions. But there are definitely resources out there for them to figure it out.
One other thing that people might be considering is, if they already have a business or they're in real estate, starting a second business. Is that something too? Because we kind of talked about like the employee path, you don't like your job or your employer and go into franchise. Do you see people that already maybe are entrepreneurs or like investors and then starting to get into franchise, or what advice might you give people in that position to consider franchising?
Yeah, we have a couple of stories in the book, which is your franchise fast pass. And again, happy to give anybody a free copy. I just need their name and address and we'll ship them out. But there's a great investor in there. His name is John. John owns multiple businesses. He's actually in franchising. He had a tax franchise. He had a grocery franchise. Then I met him. He had obviously investment money that needed to be divested, and he wanted to involve his kids. So family legacy is something we have not talked about today. And I want to share that, there are a lot of people that are trying to build a future for their family and the next generation. And John was able to do that, of course, and he worked very, very hard, but he was looking for another investment opportunity. So he bought over a dozen units of a sports franchise, but he had an operations team. He had a controller. He had all of the people. And that is a great situation, recipe for success. And there are people like him that are looking to just kind of, I call them bolt-on businesses. If there's something that you're doing with real estate, you might look at property management. You might look at landscaping. You might look at painting or roofing or windows or cabinets or something to do with real estate. For him, he had already becoming a franchise guru. Really, this was his third time. So he knew what he was getting into. And he was definitely a semi-absentee owner. He let his team take it and run with it. Now, he did have to go to training. Obviously, he had to be vetted out through the company. They had to award him the franchise. But he definitely has a skill set and well capitalized to operate multi-units. And that is not for everybody either.
I love that idea of like finding like complementary bolt-on businesses. If you're already in a particular industry and you see a lot of your clients, also needing another service, why not go and look for a franchise that does that and add that to your suite of offerings rather than trying to come up with all that from scratch? Is that something that you see happen very often?
Yeah, I have a gentleman last year in Utah that bought a landscaping mom and pop business. And he realized after he bought it that it really wasn't much in the business that he bought. And he thought, okay, I got to fix this. What can I do to fix this business, right? It needed a lot of work. And so he was looking at either buying another mom and pop business, but then he said, let's compare franchising. Let's just take a look, independent versus franchising. And the franchise model actually fit what he was looking for because he needed a lot of the digital marketing. He already had a database, but they had so many more robust systems than the mom and pop that he actually just incorporated his small business into the franchise, and it worked out great.
That's awesome. So he was able to basically take an existing business that he owned or had just purchased that was not a franchise and merge it into an existing franchise to benefit from the established systems and make his business more robust that way.
Yeah, reputation. And, obviously with technology comes all kinds of different things, right? The marketing component, estimating, the billing, the Google reviews. I mean, there's just a whole sequence of events that you need to run a business. And when he bought the mom and pop, he was kind of helping the family out, but there was none of the bells and whistles, is how he put it. And he would have had to spend a lot of money to go put those in that tiny little business. And then he thought, why not just take a big brand name, right, and roll up this business, and then I'm good to go.
Perfect. Well, you mentioned family legacy, and that's something that's important personally for me too. Can you touch on more of how does the franchise model fit in with people who are concerned about, creating that legacy for their family?
Yeah. Also, keep referencing the book, sorry, but there's a great family in there called Team Simmons. I would encourage anybody that is in real estate investing to read the book, because Team Simmons is also in real estate investing. I met his wife. It's an interesting story. So Sarah got laid off from her job and thought, what do I do now? And they had always talked over the holidays and, Q1, what are we going to do as a family? What are we going to build? What can we do to, put some money away? And they bought multi-unit buildings. And then they thought, okay, what else can we add? So they thought about franchising. So Sarah and I met. Her husband was a little bit not sure about meeting with me. Who is this woman? Why am I talking to her? We can do this on our own. So anyway, I ended up talking to David, her husband, and his eyes just wide open. He was just shocked with the knowledge that I brought to the table and how we could actually look at businesses to complement their family plan and strategy. And we went through probably 30 different brands, looking at them and evaluating, okay, let's do a short list out of the 30. And we narrowed it down to, I think, 5. And they ended up taking the skills assessment too, which was really amazing. All 3 of them are actually very similar, and that never happens. So that was exciting too, to see how, their mindset and skill set correlated with the business. And they ended up choosing property management, which was really interesting. Now, Walton, their son, runs the business. And he is in Nashville and they're in Georgia. So it's a situation where David funded the business. He'll be transitioning out of his company, and he and Walton are starting this together. But it was just for me to work with them. But we were able to take something that we wrote down on paper, a little business plan, and then we massaged it over, 4 to 6 months, and we were able to come up with the brand.
Now, I imagine there's some franchises that may be difficult to pass on. I've heard of some people in insurance where they're in a particular insurance brand and they can't pass their book on without some approval or a buyout. So I imagine there is a lot of value for people that are considering franchising and family legacy to meet with you and have these discussions so that you can bring your expertise and the facts, like you said, of here's the ones that might be a good fit if that is a focus of yours.
Absolutely. And, you think about the retirement plan and our aging population in America and what is the right age and how much money do you need to retire. And if you have a son or a daughter that has this entrepreneurial, burning desire to be their boss, then you can bring the family into the business. They can go to training. And what's nice is about the person that's thinking about retiring or maybe did retire, they'll have some recurring revenue coming in. They can be the Sherpa, the mentor, they've got the experience, so they can help oversee the business. But yet the adult kids are getting the experience of entrepreneurship. And I think in this country, my kids are 22 and 25. We are all driven to go to school. We are driven to get a college degree. We are driven to get a job. And then we need another job to make more money. But I don't think we teach entrepreneurship enough in this country.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. Well, Liz, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast and hearing these tips about franchising. We have referenced your book a lot, and so I want to make sure we give a chance. Everyone can go to your website and fill out a form. We'll have the link in our show notes and everything so people can get to it. It's called Your Franchise Fast Pass. She's going to send it to you for free if you sign up through the link that we have for this episode. Liz, is there any other final tips or words of wisdom you'd like to share with people before we wrap up?
I'm happy to talk to anybody that has had this on their mind or may not be happy in their job or they're laid off. I think for many people, they're looking for solutions. And if I can help them, my services are free. We're paid a finder's fee like a high-level recruiter from the franchisor. So there's really no risk. It's their time. So if you're curious, let's talk.
Perfect. Liz, thank you again so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.